All right, Alpha 4.1 first look at item recovery. Here we go. The bomb just went off on Spectrum last night. Just gonna be going over it and going over my notes on some thoughts that I have about their implementation and the future of what it could be. A more or less salty take, just because I feel like their transparency, from what I saw in the post, is pretty welcoming. So we're gonna go over it and I'll give you my thoughts on it. So we're going to skip a bit. Today, we want to provide a more detailed breakdown of some releases that will start to bring these plans to life. The initial T0 rollout will be fairly basic compared to the full system, but it marks a crucial first step as we shared at CitizenCon. The complete item recovery system will be far more robust, nuanced, making gear management a core gameplay element, and you'll be able to secure the items that matter most while still allowing room for piracy and emergent gameplay. So tier zero implementation with the initial rollout of item recovery in 4.1, internally referred to as T0, you will respawn with the exact gear you had equipped at the time of death. Emphasis on the term equipped, as this is different than what you may have heard or may have had in your inventory. This includes equipped weapons, armor, magazines, med pens, ensuring that your core loadout is retained. However, items stored in your inventory, such as your backpack or other containers, will remain on your corpse, making them available for looting or retrieval. So, I kind of get that understanding of it. I'm going to give you more of my thoughts as I go through it, but my main thing with the T0, if they're going to do a T0, just have it just for the equipment that your gear as far as your undersuit and your armor. I think doing it for the weapon is kind of a reach just because the abuse with the med beds and stuff like that. So let's keep going. While equipped items will also remain on your corpse too, they will not be interactable, preventing item duplication while still preserving the visual data of your character at the time of death. This approach helps mitigate item duplication issues in the initial implementation while laying the groundwork for future expansions of the system in T1 and T2, which you can read more about below. So again, you can't even interact with the loot, which is which I don't like, but it is T0. So if it's something that they're just testing and they're being very transparent with, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Like I said, my main thing is just don't give us the weapon. Do it for the armor. The armor, I think, is enough for a T0. I mean, later on, as you'll see with the tier 1 and 2, weapons will be okay. So let's go with over the important notes. Items stored in your inventory. Example, your backpack will not be protected and will remain on the corpse upon death, available to be looted/stolen by other players or retrieved by you. Let's see. Items such as magazines, med pens that you have equipped can still be looted from your corpse. However, you will respawn with these items, as duplication concerns for these types of consumables are less concerning at this stage. I don't necessarily have a problem with that either. Um, like I said, this is T0, so T0 item recovery applies to all forms of respawning, whether it's med bed on a ship or your assigned landing zone. Again, weapons, med beds, that doesn't really sound right to me. Just because it can be abused depending on what ship you have and the situation and piracy. It just kind of takes it adds more. It reduces the balance of the side of the pirate to more towards the side of the person defending, especially if they have the med bed, because it's like you spawn, you get up, you fight them again if they don't get to the bed in time. And then the next one, to ensure that your weapon is in active use is secured as an equipped item, it will be automatically stowed to your holster upon death. Again, the only thing I really have an issue at a T0 point. If you die within the landing zone, you will remain with both your equipped gear and your inventory. This is to help avoid losing items of any kind should a death outside of your control happen. I like that very much. With T0, you will respawn with your previously equipped gear already attached to your character. Yeah, I think it's a tough. They put themselves in a tough situation. Um, I just think it honestly should not include guns, at least for now in the T0. And when we move ahead, which we're getting into now, the T1 and T2, you'll see what I'm talking about. So, scenario example: exploring, you loot a rifle, store it on your backpack. If you die, the rifle will remain on your corpse, available for others to loot for you, to revisit your corpse, or for you to revisit your corpse and retrieve. However, the original rifle you had equipped to your character, in hand or holstered, at the time of death, will be secured and respawned to you. Now, I think this also gives them the ability to get data on how people would play if they had access to pretty much all the best items constantly. So it may give them data to be able to balance the FPS side of the game a bit more. But like I said, it's a pretty rough T0 to start with. So now we have looking ahead, T1 and T2. While T0 lays the groundwork and provides some assurance that your equipped items are not lost, we are already actively developing T1 and T2 implementations. These future updates will add more depth to the system, including a viable path for piracy. I think that that's very important. There's two things I think are very important going through this right now. You'll see is really piracy and crafting that they're going to add later on. So, Tier 1 will introduce the ability to register your gear and ships at a kiosk or ASOP terminals. And I think this right here is a pretty important line because it says that they're going to actually have it programmed for you to, in the software of the kiosks, to actually do this, which will get to my point later on. So just remember this part: register your gear and ships at kiosks or ASOP terminals, because that just means that they're going to spend the time to implement a new system into the game specifically for this. So, important notes: personal loadout. Players can register their equipped items, which can be reclaimed for a fee at specific kiosk or freight elevators. Ships and interiors. Ships, along with their loadouts, decorations, and locker contents, can also be registered. They can be reclaimed in the state they were previously registered at ASOP terminals for a price, which I don't think is necessarily bad, but I'll give you my thoughts on that when we go through these notes. Looting and bricked, which one of the things I don't like. Once an item is looted, it remains usable until the original owner reclaims it or marks it as stolen. At some point, a deadman switch is activated, meaning it will cease to function after a period of time. This I don't think should exist at all anywhere besides a ship. And the reason why I say a ship is because I do think that if someone steals your ship, you could set like a dead man switch. And the way I would do it is a dead man switch, you set it off. They got 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get the ship somewhere where it either can have the dead man switch removed, or they just can like sell it for parts. I think the dead man switch is kind of a rough thing to add, especially for piracy, but as long as they give you a way to be able to pirate the ship, because I know it can be very easy to steal someone's ship when they're not looking. And if they give you an option to go to a certain area or a certain base, where you can sell it for whatever at a low price for parts, or actually have the, let's say, like the VIN number changed to you, or however scenario whatever scenario you can think of where maybe reputation comes into play. You have a reputation with a fence that you bring stolen goods to, and they give you the ability to like rig the ship as your own and remove any lasting dead man switch or bomb, whatever you would be able to do with that. Let's see. While a looted or stolen, yeah, no longer usable, you can still sell the item for credits. That's kind of my eh. I'm not really a fan of that, especially on gear like armor and weapons. I don't think it needs to be there. Pledge items are also auto registered, which will never lose their registration status. This can always be claimed back even if they were not manually registered. I like that. With tier 1, you will no longer respawn with your preserved gear already equipped. You will need to visit a location such as your freight elevator to reclaim registered items. We are developing a quality of life feature to allow you to re-equip your previous full loadout with one auto equip button. Additionally, with the implementation of T1, our current plan is to remove the ability to backspace out of dangerous scenarios as a way to retain gear. Right. So I think that this is kind of giving them a whole, they're trying to fix one problem and adding many more that kind of reduce the gameplay of the game. So let's just go into tier 2 and then I'll give you my whole thoughts of what I actually think that they should do, which would be, I feel, much easier from a game design, you know, uh, a game design aspect where it's less intrusive than what they're trying to do here. And then, so we have tier 2 will introduce a way to restore previously bricked items for a price. See, this is what I like, but I just think it should only be for ships. Important notes, looting of bricked items. Once an item is looted, you will have the option to sell it, dismantle it for crafting materials, or restore it. Again, this comes into crafting. I'll explain myself once we're done here. The system creates a viable path for piracy, allowing you to claim other people's belongings if you take the necessary steps to legitimize ownership. Again, this should only be for ships, guys. It's kind of ridiculous to have it for armor and weapons. It's just FPS weapons. It's not that big of a deal. If an item had a cosmetic applied, restoring it will remove the cosmetic in the process. This I really don't like. Really don't like, and I think it's like a marketing thing or a business decision, which I don't think should be the case. I mean, if I have a skin, on my ship or my gun and you steal it, it should just stay that way. It's kind of ridiculous to say that they don't get it. I know they're trying to reduce duping in that sense, but I feel like what you have to do is make it so that people really don't want to lose that stuff while also giving them the ability to get it back somehow. As far as like crafting, so if you lose a piece of armor or weapon that you thought was really cool, you know, there's a process of getting it back. It's not gone forever, but when I say getting it back, I mean like crafting it or remaking it, or buying it, let's say. But that shouldn't be taken from the people that steal it from you. The introduction to item recovery is a significant step forward toward making gear persistence more meaningful while maintaining risk reward balance of looting. Don't think that's true. T0 and Alpha 4.1 is just the beginning. Integrate into the broader crafting and insurance systems. We'll be actively refining and updating and help with your feedback throughout the PTU process and beyond. So I think most importantly, like I'm really happy they're being transparent about this. I mean, a lot of people are obviously happy. On Spectrum, if you can see, they have 816 upvotes, and that's a good amount of people. And I do think overall people like the changes. I kind of think that they're shooting themselves in the foot here mostly. I just think of simply there's a problem that they have where gear and certain items you buy in subscriber store are literally items themselves. They're not skins, like the ship skins. So they feel like they have a problem that they need to solve there. But I think it's easier than, doing all of this. All you have to do is allow items to be copied. And what I mean by that is that if you have a P8 and you have another P8, the P8, one P8 is from the subscriber store, it has a cool skin on it. All you do is you take it to the special kiosk and you transfer the look like transmog in WoW. I mean, that's a common way to do it. And you just set the item's look or cosmetic however you want to call it. You just transfer the look over to that new gun, and it keeps the stats of the gun while using the cosmetic of the other weapon. And you have it solved right there. I don't think we need to be doing all of this. Like, it's just simple. I go to the store, I buy some gear, and then if I want it to look like my special, subscriber gear, I go to the special kiosk and I just transmog it. I think this is kind of very intrusive overall. I mean, I think we do need a item recovery system, but this is kind of I feel a bit overboard, especially for gear and weapons. I mean, ships you can kind of is another story because people want to decorate their ships, have certain things in them, and they don't want to lose all that. And I feel like that may work specifically just for ships in these tier 1 and tier 2, but for weapons and armor, I just don't see it, making sense, especially with crafting. If you make it so that it's a transmog system, that means that people still have to craft gear with actual stats, and then you could just apply the transmog to whatever gear. And this can also lead to, later down the line when they add these dungeons that they're talking about, say they add some type of boss armor, you get for defeating the boss in the dungeon. Well, that boss gear might not always be like the meta gear to use. So the best thing for you to do if you like the way it looks is later on when you get the better piece of gear from the old boss gear, you get something that surpasses that. Well, you can transfer the boss gear look over to that new armor that's better than the boss gear, and you still get to look cool. I do think they have to tread lightly as far as doing that. I know that, for instance, like Destiny 2, I think went down a bad route of, all these crazy looking transmog stuff. And I do think that Star Citizen being a very different game from that, though, might not have the same issues. Being that in Star Citizen, I think having more styles for people to wear and stylize their character in their own way might be the best way to go, because everybody wants to be different, and nobody wants to kind of look the same. And the people that want to look the same in their orgs, they can. Let's see if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, the duping of the subscriber armor, I've seen people say that. I think that that's obviously a problem because CIG wants to make money off of their sub armors. And if I could just duplicate it and give it to my friend instead of my friend having to buy it too, they lose out on money. And again, they're a business. Let's see. World of Warcraft. Destiny 2 is a bad idea. Yeah, if they have like an auction house where crafters create this gear and you buy it off the auction house, and then all you have to do is apply the transmog. It's such an easier system because, like I said back here, when they say that they're talking about rolling in a kiosk, right? That means that they're really going hard on this. And all that kiosk has to be able to do is just transfer the cosmetic over to the stock weapon or whatever weapon it is you're going to use. It doesn't have to do more than that. And yeah, so I think I got everything on my list here. Those are my thoughts. If you guys have any comments, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear it in the comments below. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. And I will catch you guys next time.